All right, 7:01 and 30 seconds. 7:01 and 30 seconds. So we'll get started. So call to order the regular meeting for the Chambersburg Area School District. This is the March 14th Pi Day. So we had the executive session prior to the meeting for personnel items. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So just public note, Mrs. Smith isn't here. Hopefully she'll join us later. Mr. Leonard's got called to FEMA duty again, so he's in deployment in, I think it's New Orleans. Had intentions of joining us tonight, but just ran into some problems getting settled down there. And Mr. Norcross is out for personal business out of town. He was probably sitting in an airport right now. So we got just us, which is still a quorum. 2.03, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on the regular meeting agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda as listed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, agenda is passed. And also on the line, we have Mr. Z. Anyone else on the line? Okay. Mr. Z was on his way over here today and ran into some wind problems. Pretty windy this time of year. All right, approval of the minutes. 3.01, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All right, extra gold stars tonight, folks. For Ocean. All right, yeah. All right, any questions, discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Minutes are passed. 4.01, President's Report. I was out of town, and so I don't have a whole lot other than kind of two announcements or items. One is just a reminder, everybody, sometimes things get put on social media and they aren't based completely on fact, or maybe it's just a little bit of fact that they blow out of proportion. So don't always, just to feel like this is beating the dead horse, but don't always believe everything that's out there. If there's questions about something you read that's in the district, call the office of the school that your student goes to, or the administration office, or email us before just adding to the hyperbole at times, or the hype. And we talked last time about opening up the superintendent search again and reaching out to firms that will help with placement, research, recruiting firms. We did receive 3 RFPs back, requests for proposals, and we will be presenting those. We got them back just 2 recent, like over the weekend. They were compiled yesterday. According to Sunshine and other laws, the law is too late to get it on tonight's agenda, so we will have it on the agenda for 2 weeks for discussion, and we'll have all of the 3 proposals, so they'll be completely open to the public to see. And then we'll discuss and select. That's what I have. Mr. Woodman for 4.02.
Okay, I want to share some positives happening in the district in the past couple weeks. We had the JROTC Passing Review, which was an amazing event highlighting the work of over 90 students to their families and the community. Our young men and women did an outstanding job representing the program at Caches. Chambersburg just hosted County Chorus last weekend for Franklin and Fulton counties. It was an excellent concert. Kudos to our middle school and high school directors for being excellent hosts. The band and glee club, 192 students, just went to Philadelphia and performed at the 76er basketball game last Friday night. 4 Trojan wrestlers made the state tournament. The Cam South Middle School STEM team came in first and third place at the LIU in the middle school STEM competition. And our Trojan boys basketball team last Saturday just knocked off the #1 seed in our bracket in the state tournament at their home court as well. They led wire to wire, beating a highly ranked team in the state and nationally ranked team. They play in the second round of the state playoffs tomorrow night at Cedar Crest High School. Lastly, I'm going to lead right into 5.01, the presentation. The CIT committee had an excellent presentation from some very passionate teachers about an Algebra 1 resource that is going on public for the community to see starting tomorrow. It'll be out here in our lobby, and then once we move the 30 days, we'll have to move it from this lobby to the caches lobby if any of the public wants to see that. When we purchase a resource, we put on display for 30 days before the board votes on it. So in April, our school board will bring forth an agreement. To start, the teachers were a little afraid to tell us that they did not pick a math resource for all the classes like geometry, algebra 2, prob and stats, and calculus. They wanted to pump the brakes on the others, but we're definitely ready to move forward with the Algebra 1 resource, and you'll see that tonight. And we are okay with that. They explained that pretty well to the CIT committee. This is an online resource with student consumables that are available, and we're going to be bringing, like I said, the contract at the April meeting. It came in far less than we budgeted for Algebra 1 resource. For 6 years, it'll be $72,600, and that includes PD. We do have it being reviewed by Mr. Z, and we'll be bringing that contract forward, like I said, in April. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Cody Marker. He's one of the principals at the high school, but he's in charge of the math department. And then 3 teachers, Jennifer Varner, Marcus Elbell, and Melinda Dewald. They all teach algebra, and they're going to introduce the resource Desmos. So take it away. And actually, you're the only one here that didn't see the presentation, so the other 5 did. This presentation really was for the other folks, so so you could keep it shorter.
Okay,
It just means they're all stoked. They're stoked with bunches of questions now, though.
Well, they heard your comments about math last time, and they wanted to.
Oh,
So go ahead, folks.
Yeah, so Dr. Schur, I guess this is for you. It's fitting that we're all here on Pi Day, though, because we've got a bunch of nerds in the room, so we're all stoked for this. We all changed out of our Pi Day t-shirts just for you, so we should have kept those on. But Desmos, why it's awesome. So if you could go to the next slide. So if I think about a resource that I want in the classroom, I'm really thinking something that would help me create an ideal lesson. So an ideal lesson would have some sort of engaging warm-up. There would be a type of collaboration for students. Play, curiosity, leading into learning. You can see all these things in here. There's a place to write down notes. There's student writing is involved. Practice with some sort of immediate feedback, individual check-ins, access for absent students. There's so many components to a really good lesson. And right now, we are doing all of them, pulling from different resources, and we have been for years. And what we discovered, all 3 of us we all teach Algebra 1, but we also were all in the committee to pick a resource overall for a whole math department, since we all teach various subjects at the high school. And really, I know what I was looking at, what lots of people are looking at, is what is something that can improve our instruction? Is this resource better than what we have? And are we using the district's money wisely in purchasing a resource? And if it's not better, why are we going to get it? And so Jen was saying a little bit about the other resources that we looked at, but doing an ideal lesson is really hard. And even in the 3 of us, we have quite a bit of experience. This is my 16th year teaching at the high school. And on a really, really good day, I can do all these things well. But it's a lot of work. In Algebra 1, this resource, Desmos, it is not a traditional resource. It is not one of the big name companies. It was one that we found just because we've worked with the program. And it allows us, it is part of the program where it has all of these components in it. We've got some work to do just as our department, but we are excited and eager as a PLC to do that work to make this resource come to life. But really, it checks all these boxes for what is an ideal lesson and helping us get there, and just a little bit easier than what we're doing right now.
All right.
Next slide.
Yeah. Thank you. We just appreciate the time to be able to come and share with you again. It's just and just for the consideration of purchasing the Desmos for Algebra 1. It is definitely, it's definitely something that we looked at as a part of the Math Resource Committee, because ultimately we want to improve our instruction with any resource. And we all decided that Desmos was it for us. It is that traditional experience for our students. They still can have that paper and pencil. They still can take notes. They still can practice. But our students' learning is being enhanced with technology, with all of the interactive activities, and it allows students also for instant feedback, which so many of them are craving right now. So throughout a lesson with a class full, they still can receive that instant feedback with the technology pieces. It is also something that we're very familiar with at the high school. It's kind of evolved. The Desmos started as a calculator, and now it can be used for a resource to teach all of Algebra 1. And Marcus is going to share with you some of those components that we're so excited about and eager to use with our students, so you can see how they're learning supported.
I feel like we should even preface this. We've already told Marcus this is way condensed, and we are way excited about this. But we know we're limiting our time, so we have put Marcus on a much smaller time
In a
frame.
box.
If you need to spend the
Next
next
slide.
3 hours on this, he could go on for a long
I'm
time.
your guy.
This is great.
So I shared in-depthly, with many of you, activities and ways of play and experimentation and curiosity. But I just wanted to highlight for everybody else, that you're not familiar, one thing that makes Desmos unique, there's something called the dashboard. And maybe some of the students here know, but the dashboard's very helpful to the teacher and to the student because there's 3 main things that it has that's unique. And the first thing is the pause button. Students hate the pause button. But we can pause the lesson anytime when they're on their Chromebooks. We can hit pause and their screen just blanks out. The other thing that I love that is a newer thing in Desmos as it's progressed is the anonymize button. So you can anonymize every student's name. So it will give them a famous mathematician or philosopher, actually. It's kind of interesting. And we still know who they are, but they don't know who everybody else is, unless they ask the person beside them, hey, what's your name? But they don't know. And now, why is this important? Most students don't want to take a risk. One thing I encourage in my classroom daily, and I know you guys do as well, is risk taking, right? When people know who you are, it's like, I don't want to be seen as stupid, or I don't know what I'm doing. So we want to put things out there. The anonymize button allows you to just throw out an idea, because often students like Desmos brings out the genius in students. That's what we believe. So that's 2 things so far: the pause and the anonymize button, and then the pacing at the very end. We can keep them between slides 1 and 4, or between slides 8 and 9. This keeps students from moving ahead and encourages them to work and collaborate. So those are the 3 key features of the dashboard. Melinda mentioned the play and curiosity and experimentation. The writing built in, a lot of explaining your thinking, but also there's things that aren't on the other side of, there's a free version of the Desmos, but it's just basic stuff. This resource allows you to do a lot of, there's constant reflection, there's writing assignments, there's a ton of things with the district initiative. This is perfect for what we want. And then it's truly a blended resource. We looked at 3 other main big resources, and a lot of them were good at just the online component. Some of them are good at more of the paper and pencil. This is the only one that we found that's truly paper and pencil, because I think kids want paper, right? Kids want paper. But we do need to use some of the technology and enhance learning and allow kids to play around with some of the ideas. So Desmos is the only one that has both. So these are the main things. If you want more in-depth, I can give you more in-depth, but that's the idea.
I just want to thank all 3 of these teachers for coming in tonight. We're very fortunate at Cassius to have all 3 of them teaching math in our building. I can tell you that they have very much advocated for this program, and it's not very often that we have 100% complete buy-in amongst our teachers whenever we're going to purchase a new resource. And speaking within our Algebra 1 PLC, there was not one teacher that was even hesitant, to say the least, about moving forward with this. So, if we can move forward and purchase this resource, I think that it'll be all hands on deck, and we'll be ready to work and implement everything to a T starting next year. Thanks.
think I wanted to add one other thing. I thought you said this when we presented to the committee, but it's a resource made by teachers
Yes.
for teachers. A lot of the other resources aren't made by teachers, so they don't know what teachers want. And so I just wanted to add that.
Student, teacher friendly. We could keep going for a while. It's pretty great.
And when they wanted to pump the brakes, one of the reasons they told the committee, this company's also developing geometry and some other math resources, and they really like to wait and see what those are like because they like this one so much. And so that was one of the reasons. And I will say, Marcus, with the committee that was here, he was showing them exactly some problems and how they're real world and what it would look like on the kids' end. So, and they've been using it at Caches with the students, and the kids like it at Caches. Feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions for us?
Thank you. Any fresh questions that you guys?
Yeah, I'll just say for Dr. Scher, what you missed out on is they showing us some of how the program works. It was pretty cool to see charting a line on a graph and how they were able to turn math equations into a bit of a game in a way that I can understand how kids would really resonate with our students. So.
I can see just from a district perspective too. I'm really excited about this. We can see data from our department, which is something our Algebra 1 PLC actually uses and craves, and we want to work together to make every teacher wants to make another teacher better. We want our kids as a whole to be successful. And in the past, I don't even know how many years, our data has looked really good as far as how much kids grow at the high school. The data on the Keystone exams, it shows tremendous growth. But we don't want to stop at growth. We want kids to be proficient. We want them to be advanced. We want them to be mastering the content. And so we can't stop with the resources we have because they're growing. We want it to be better.
I'd like to say thank y'all for your enthusiasm, man. Math was not my forte, my 5 or my 6 I wish, honestly, I was in algebra. Well, I'm not even gonna. I got put out of algebra. They were like, "Yeah, this is not for you." I wish I had teachers that were excited as y'all are. Honestly, that's when you made the first presentation, I was like, "Wow!" It was very contagious. I thought, and thank y'all for your energy.
I would have to
the way
say
you teach.
we're not alone though. If you go into our Algebra PLC, there are 15 excited teachers ready to go. Like it's a pretty great group. In the math department as a whole, but I would say in algebra, it is particularly with this initiative.
Yeah. We appreciate your dedication and enthusiasm. And I'd like to attend your classes.
Okay.
Anything else before I add my comments or questions? All right. The one I wanted to, I'll echo what the others have said, which is your excitement, and you're the professionals. You're in the trench. You have that best pulse of what kids need and the tools that you feel you need to do it. And I appreciate that you looked at others, evaluated, and landed at one that you really feel comfortable with. That's exciting, instead of, different ways to go at it. I like it that you did all of this. The question I had, which was kind of addressed already, with this being just one unit, I was like, well, are we going to get stuck then, where you have them like a patchwork of, oh, this is Algebra 1, but Algebra 2 is a different model, and then you get a different one down here for geometry, et cetera. But it sounds like maybe you were looking at things holistically, but you said, all right, we really like what we're seeing here, and let's see how they unfold with the others, kind of keep status quo, and then I think it's going to be a contract, but it sounds like if this doesn't pan out as you think, then we still have the option before we dive into the deep end on all of the other work. So
there are some benefits to some patchwork so that it's not boring for kids too. You go from one class to another one. We love that we have double period at the high school for Algebra 1. It is a gift to us and to our students because we really get to spend so much time with them, like helping them. I can just see kids grow tremendously during that time. And so I would love the resource to look at and see what's coming And also, like, it's kind of nice. I know we teach multiple classes. When you have multiple preps in a day, it's nice to not redo everything all at once. So I'm excited for the rollout, like when it could possibly be. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's what the elementary teachers were asking, that they know that we're looking at social studies and science. They didn't want it all to hit at once because of rolling it out and learning it. So I mean, what your point is what we heard with the last resource as well, selection.
And two other comments. One is, I also appreciate where you say that it is pen and paper, but it also the technology. I had a conversation at work the other, a few weeks ago, and at work, some workplaces where by working remote, you've shut down the ability to print things, to protect data, whatever. I'm the type of learner where I need to take notes. So I've actually reflected and said, that's actually, I think, harmed me in the sense that I want to print out presentations and write on them because that's how I retain. And by not being able to do that, again, I think it's detrimental. But so having that flexibility in this is also very good. And just my last thing is just to clarify, since I got called out on my math comments last time. I struggled with calc and trig. I can tell you exactly, I was struggling with algebra a little bit, to algebra 1, but we were going to my grandfather's house. My father was explaining something to me. I can tell you the exact spot in Greencastle where I went, oh, I got it. And it was not smooth sailing after that, but I struggled and got through that. So I had my breakthrough, and I can, again, tell you the exact spot where that happened as we were driving.
I love calculus too, if we want to go on that route, just saying.
Well,
Love it.
yeah, well, we'll save that for another time. So, yeah, very good. Any other questions? Okay, I'll echo. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, I'll just say for the public, you can go check out their website and check out their graphing calculator right now if you want.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that's neat. I mean, you've heard this pitch before, but yet you still retained that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And you're not in a classroom every day. So that stuck with you. So that, to me, also is a good message.
Yeah.
Right, so you said this will be on out in the lobby, and then the lobby at the...
Yeah, it'll be here until April 7th, and then it'll be at Cash's until the first board meeting in April, which will be actually over at Cash's. So it'll be on display there. We'll have their presentation as well as some information about Desmos. Come in and take a look at it. And we do ask that the public sign their name so we know who came in and looked at it. So thank you.
Great. Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. 6.01, members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. I have one individual that has indicated comments, Mr. Hayduck. And you always do a great job with the 3 minutes and all that, so that is a shout. That is a compliment, so thank you.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate others who can comply with that requirement as an attendee in the audience. 2 items today. My name is Mike Haydock. My comment pertains to item 7.09, revision of policy 241, which addresses early studies for college university. While I agree with the intent of this policy, I urge this body to consider extending the policy to include attendance at technical, trade, or vocational schools, which the Pennsylvania Department of Education spells out in its definition of post-secondary institutions. Clearly, not every student is suited for, interested in, or can afford college. Many students prefer to work with their hands, make things, fix things, do a job that they love while making a good and honest living at it. I suspect this is merely an oversight, and there will be unanimous agreement that this policy should afford this awesome opportunity to all students, not just some of them. This next comment pertains to item 7.10, revision of policy 805, emergency preparedness and response. This policy is absolutely necessary and addresses many of the events that we all hope will never occur, but we must be prepared to respond to. I ask you to consider this. Pennsylvania has more freight railroad operators than any other state. It's the third most rail miles behind only Texas and Illinois. Due to this school's proximity to the potential threat of a derailment or an incident at the YMCA with an accidental release of chlorine gas, perhaps a deeper dive into the response to a toxic chemical spill is warranted. Do we mandate that students shelter in place? Do we initiate a mass evacuation? How does that work? And where do the students go if buses can't travel through or near the area of the catastrophic event? Lots of questions that deserve thought and answers in order to be prepared and to respond to these incidents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments on agenda items? All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, 7.0, consent agenda items. Are there items that we wish to have pulled for separate discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We'll acknowledge that the two comments we just had will, I think, even though these are the second read items, it doesn't preclude us from going back and looking at them through that lens and in policy committee. And just acknowledge that.
That's good.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items as listed there, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, consent agenda passes. Board services, all right, so this is 8.01. We have a motion to approve policy 011.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. And we talked about this one last time. This is the, we purposely don't include this in the consent agenda so that we could have individual votes on this. Any discussion on it from last time? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Just a clarification, Dr. Scher,
Yes.
was that Dr. Diller or Ms. Gogler that motioned? Dr. Diller, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Diller,
Yes.
Ms. Gogler,
Yes.
Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Raber,
Yes.
Dr. Scher,
Yes.
and Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
You need a cough drop, Dr. Dillon? I'm not being smart. Do you need
Yeah,
one?
that would be nice, actually.
Okay.
It's called laryngitis. Thank you. I don't know if it'll help, but
9.01.
thank you for your kindness.
Hopefully you don't mind that. Tammy has different flavors. 9.01, the personnel
Thank you.
actions. May I have a motion to approve the personnel actions?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion on personnel agenda, item, personnel actions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, personnel actions are approved. Committee reports, last time we started with Mr. Raber, so Mr. McKee?
No.
Anything for the good of the
No,
order?
sir.
All right. Same with me, I already commented. Ms. Gogler?
No.
Okay, Mr. Walker?
None.
Dr. Diller? Mr. Raber? Okay. 11.01, members of the audience invited to comment on non-agenda items. I did not see anybody indicate they have a topic to cover, but I'll open it up. Anybody else? Okay. Students, you get extra credit if you actually come up and talk. I think you should, right? A 3-minute ad lib. We'll pick a topic for you and you can just go at it. Like
Let's do it.
all right. With that, then, we will adjourn the business regular meeting. It's 12.01. We'll move to the committee of the whole. starting with 1.01 memorandum of understanding with CSD and the Borough Chambersburg facility use emergency purpose. So Mrs. Stauffer, are you going to cover this, or Mr. Carter?
I don't know where Mr. Carter
Thought I
went.
saw
I think he
him.
left.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, this is an agreement between the borough and the Chambersburg Area School District, where if there was an emergency requiring evacuation in the borough, that our facilities would be available for use.
Any questions on this one from anyone? All right. This is kind of tangent to that. So I believe, Mrs. Stauffer, to the comment that was made earlier about the rail and all of those, I believe that that's in the emergency plan, right? And this would be kind of part of that overall plan?
Our emergency response plan?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do have a mass emergency response plan that addresses different disasters.
Scenarios.
Right.
So I think that scenario that was referenced is addressed in that. All right, so as we do with all these meetings, unless I hear commentary to the contrary, we'll move this to the consent agenda for next time. 1.02 GSS agreement. This is Nolt.
Good evening. This agreement is for doing our tax bills. Instead of us printing those ourselves, we would like to go to self-sealers. And this company would take care of all the printing. They would give us the paper. They sort it, do the pre-sort. We would pay them for the postage, and they deliver that directly to the post office. So it basically takes it out of our hands and puts it into theirs. I got several references, and all were very good.
Any questions or comments?
I don't have it pulled up right now, but what is the additional price for that?
So the cost would be around $21,500, but actually, when we have to purchase the paper, the envelopes, the time, the Xerox, and all of that, this is actually going to cost us less to do it this way. And it's coming out of our budget.
Thank you.
It's kind of going to come out of your budget either way, right?
Yes, it
So
will.
it's just a little bit less coming out. And I think this is also one of those acknowledgements where we have to look at what's within our lane, what do we do, what can we outsource? And when you have really less people, there's vacancies, all of that stuff that we've talked about so many times before, this is something we can offload. And in this case, fortunately, more economically than we could do it in-house. So I think it sounds great. Right, so the consent agenda, budget transfer.
Okay, this transfer is done at the end of a fiscal year, where we go back and look at the accounts and make sure that none of the accounts are over budget. So it's really just a year-end fiscal thing that we need to do each year.
Okay. Housekeeping, so good. Consent agenda for that. 1.04, maximum healthcare services. Mr. Whitman.
This is a new contract. This is for a nurse contract for a student who has a high need. Some work that has to be done at home as well with a feeding tube. So.
Okay. If there's any specific or detailed questions, we'd have to cover that in executive session, but any general questions? Okay, consent agenda, 1.05, I think we have material here. Again, if we need specifics on that, we'll want to do that in executive session. We can do that later. I don't anticipate any, just for the clarity. So let me ask this then. Does anybody have any detailed questions that would necessitate? Okay, so we'll put that on consent agenda. 1.06, exchange student, Mr. Whitman.
This will probably be the first of several. This student has been accepted with a family in Chambersburg with the ASSE International Student Exchange Program. All security and health protocols have been followed, and the Chambersburg Area Senior High School is willing to accept the student for the 23-24 school year starting in August.
And this is going, the student is going to caches, as we see. This has been prior discussion. or
Yes, that is
topic, so we
correct.
can see that's listed here. Any questions? All right, I know this one didn't have the paperwork. I always get curious, like where they're coming from and all that. It doesn't, you don't need to, but it's just kind of like, I always get fascinated by
I
it.
can see it. I don't know if I'm
It's
allowed
under
to share.
executive.
Is it? Okay, I must not have.
Are we allowed to share where? Or no? I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to ask Bill Z if I can say where the student's coming from. I have it in front of me. Bill, are you online?
You could probably say,
I am here.
probably say country, right?
I could say the country the student's coming from. Is that fine, Bill?
I think that's fine. Yeah, it's not identifying.
Taiwan.
That's a new one. Usually it's, I've seen Italy, Germany, and others. Interesting, cool.
It's
Always-
exciting. It's
always
exciting
get
for the district. It's exciting for our student body to, I think it enriches our school when we have students from other countries here.
I agree.
Yeah, I always think it's, you know, you think about Taiwan and somehow they found Chambersburg.
Yeah.
It's neat how the journey gets to here, but I find it fascinating. And I must have got disconnected. I was in, I don't know what session I was in, so thanks for bringing that to my attention. 1.07, Mrs. Clever, this is for policy 150.
Yep, we have several policies, and Dr. Scher, do you just want me to go through the list of them and continue?
Yeah, unless somebody objects, just kind of do the
Highlight?
run through, and then if there's any specific questions, we can, because there's one I want to highlight for everybody.
Sure, absolutely. So 1.07 is policy 150, Title I, comparability of services. This policy was reviewed by Curriculum and Instruction at their committee meeting, I believe, on January 23rd, and there were just some slight changes that they are recommending to that policy. 1.08, this is policy 800, operations, and my peer sitting to my right reviewed this policy, Christine Wogelmuth. She is our Director of Technology. A lot of changes being made to this, and I know, Dr. Scher, this is the one that has about the board recordings that you wanted to make a comment on?
Yeah, I can do that now while we're in here. I don't know that it pops out in the policy, but the recordings themselves are in the
Yeah,
record
it's-
retention schedule. So the policy talks about record retention, you know, for this type of document is classified as A, B, or C, whatever the classifications would be. And then for each one of those classifications, there's a duration in which that document needs to be kept. Really, after that, it needs to be destroyed, which is just good. There's a variety of reasons why that's just a good thing to do. In policy committee, I think Dr. Long, you brought up there was some confusion about not about the direction that we were receiving. Like, well, in this scenario, it says 6 years, but in this scenario, it says 50 years. So I think there were some nuances that we're working out. But that record retention schedule is not part of the policy. It's more of an administrative regulation. The call that I want to make, though, and Mr. Z, I know you're attuned to all of these and provided guidance, is that the board, these meetings, the official record of these are the minutes that we approve. It's not, you know, we saw on the agenda tonight, it wasn't, and I approved the video as captured by YouTube. It's the minutes themselves. So those are, would be classified as more as transitory documents, which then means once the official document of record is approved, the transitory documents should be destroyed. So what this policy would do, and the complementary or accompanying record retention schedule, for practical purposes, that means that the YouTube videos would be up until after the board approves the minutes for that meeting. At that time, the YouTube video would be deleted. I just want that to be clear for all the board.
Are there practical reasons to keep that beyond? I mean, I don't know.
And Mr. Z, feel free to jump in. The question was, are there any practical
To keep it
reasons
for
why
a
we want to
year?
keep it? I think the,
I don't
personally,
know.
I'll say my take is it's more the, it's not practical. One could always say, well, it'd be nice if I could go back and look at something, but from the formality of documents, it's not a real formal document. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Z, why don't you
Yeah,
expand on that? better
Sure,
than I
it's
could?
completely your preference with respect to maintaining beyond once the minutes are adopted. To your point, Dr. Shore, the official minutes are what are required to be maintained. Some districts maintain their recordings of their board meetings for a length of time. Others delete them after they officially adopt the minutes. It's completely up to the district to determine how you want to address that.
And that's a
What-
good point, because we don't typically see that it is getting recorded there separately and on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
But all of these things are then, the points, obviously not every word is transcribed, but the salient points are collected and captured in the minutes, which is what we then approve.
What are normal lengths of time to, if you were to keep a YouTube video, is it a year? Is it?
Mr.
mean,
Z, I'll
options
let
are-
you,
Yes,
if
are
you
you
can add
asking me,
on for
Mr.
what
Weaver?
other districts are doing.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
just trying to understand, like,
just
what
the
is-
the
what's
LIU
most
as
common?
as a comparison does the same thing as what we're proposing here.
Uh-huh.
They're already doing that. But Mr. Z,
I don't
what's
have
your
strong
experience
preference. I'm
elsewhere?
just trying to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, it varies. I mean, I have districts I work with that keep audio recordings, for instance, going back since they started doing it. So you can go back. Others that do the video, will keep it for a year. Some, as you indicated, Dr. Shore, and the IU being an example, is the same process that you're describing, where you keep them until the official minutes are adopted. So I wouldn't say necessarily there's a standard. There's some that feel that it's important to keep the videos, because you have them and, allows people to go back who weren't able, but others feel, once you adopt the minutes, those are the official minutes. There's no legal requirement to keep the recordings.
And we also, if I could add, we also do not transcribe ours for ADA. So we would be at a liability to keep that up longer. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Wait, you're
I
saying?
don't understand that.
Explain.
Because we do not do the ADA transcription of every word on the video that is being closed captioning, that is being done. We do not do that or have that technology here. So without doing that, that would be a liability for us as well.
The fact that
But
we're
yeah,
not doing it
There are web
today, we
accessibility
actually have-
issues there
Sorry,
under
go
the
ahead.
ADA.
Correct.
Wait, don't we currently have, I mean, that's currently where we're at already, though.
Right, so
Yeah.
the fact that we don't is a little bit of a liability. I think
Okay.
that's what I'm understanding. Because also, when you think about it, we don't have someone here doing sign language for YouTube
Yeah.
or the closed captioning. LIU is in comparison, I think they use, I don't know if they use Facebook or something, but they do have the closed captioning, which does it real time. We just don't have that ability here right now.
I guess my thoughts on it is, I know when something's read, and I mean, we obviously with everything, things get lost in translation. I'm not saying, I get it, there are official things when you read something online or whatever. My, wife had texted me something and I got it totally wrong, and I come back to the house and showed up and come to find out that I wasn't in trouble that I thought I was in, because I read, and I'm saying that to say that when someone speaks, or there's something to be said for the tonality, the inflection, their voice, and the I don't know. I'm just I don't know, thinking through this right now.
Well, and that's why we have a discussion tonight. I wanted to really make sure that it was completely aware. We don't have to, I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm backtracking, but I personally like it until the next time. but we could say we're gonna keep it for 90 days, you know, whatever. We determine, granted, this is an administrative regulation, but it's our, I think this is something where we need to weigh in because it's essentially our documents. We could pick what we want. But, I mean, in some ways, though, you're kind of like, well, what time frame do you pick? Because 2 weeks, I go back 2 months, at some point, it's still going to get wiped out.
Yeah. I like the idea of a year, but
I think, personally, I look at them like if somebody's really that interested, they're going to go and pull it down off of YouTube anyhow, so.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, I guess,
Or tried to.
thinking, it was so reading back the record, if I say to Dr. Shore, say, hey, you're gonna give me that $50, and you say, yeah, sure, I'm gonna give you that $50. The record says, yeah, sure, I'm gonna give you that $50, but we know Lance ain't getting that $50. And that's kind of where my head was going with that, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of continue with that, then I would look at it and say, now, the minutes say I was gonna give you the $50, but that's not really, because the minute, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't need to beat the horse.
Yeah. Sure, you'll get that $50.
Yeah, you'll get it.
I could see some value in retaining it for longer than
What's
the
your
next meeting.
gut feeling? What do you think?
I don't know, 90 days or a year.
Well, mull over it because we got 2 weeks.
That's right.
If you do feel strongly about a duration or whatever, then let's, email me or what, not all of us, but let us know in the policy, and we'll be able to get that reflected before we get together next time.
I'm okay with the way the policy's written and for your reasons that you had spoken of.
And again, it's not in the policy, it's just.
No, it's gonna be in the
Right,
administrative
it's an administrative regulation, but they're tied together. Okay, so let's just, in anticipation, there could be discussion, have this as a separate agenda item next time. But we'll move it ahead just as a separate item. Ms. Clever, you want to pick it up again on 1909, policy 913?
I sure will. Policy 913, non-school organizations, groups, individuals. So this is for the dissemination of materials, and Dr. Long and Mr. Whitman were asked to review this policy, which they did, and also combine policy 913.1, which is flyer distribution, and that has been incorporated into the 913 policy. Then we move on to 1.10, policy 200, enrollment of students. This was reviewed by Chris Carroll and then subsequently reviewed by the policy committee. Just a couple small revisions. Item 1.11, policy 217, graduation. Again, that was reviewed by Chris Carroll and the policy committee with a few changes. And this also holds true for 1.12 and item 1.13, policy 221, dress and grooming, and 233, suspension and expulsion. Again, both reviewed by Chris Carroll and then followed up with a review by the policy committee. And then lastly, just for information only, 1.14, policy 226, searches. This was reviewed by Chief Carter, and no changes are being recommended at this time.
Any questions on any of those?
I'll just speak up about suspension briefly. I'm always a little hesitant to, I don't know, I see sometimes kids being suspended, and then I see them walking the streets of our town unsupervised, because parents may be at work, or maybe parents give them that kind of freedom. And I'm always a little hesitant when we go that route, and I wonder if we could minimize what we can do to minimize that being used. I understand there's a time where, you need to take more severe action, but it's just something I think about as I work with youth in the community.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a quick answer for that, obviously. And
Right.
you weren't anticipating one, but
No.
I think we get the point.
I think
Then,
the policy is fine.
The
just to be
policy's
clear.
fine, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah. So, all right. Any other items? Dress and grooming, I was really advocating for a British-style school uniform at policy committee, but yeah, it didn't go anywhere, so. That's why I said it tonight, where there's like, yeah.
Dr. Scher said, can we put this in the minutes?
Yeah, it's not in the minutes. I was just kidding for reflection. Did you have something, Dr. Dillon?
I wanted to welcome all the visitors that are here tonight and wondering what course brought you here? Civics, what grade? Junior for 11th grade civics. Well, that's just wonderful. It's nice to have all the visitors out there, but particularly the high school students. Welcome. I've been smiling at you all night.
And you picked an awesome meeting, because it's like, we're done lickety
Yeah,
split
you
tonight.
couldn't have picked a better one.
Best meeting ever.
Yeah, it's like the shortest one in 5 years. So.
Yes.
Well planned. All right, anything else then for the good of the order, since we exhausted the agenda? Okay, motion to close the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Be careful.
Yeah, this is early.
Thank you.
Ooh.